Hey everyone, we're doing something different today. We're going to look at old Atari commercials. I guess what we're going to do is we'll show it once and then we'll go back and I'll make fun of it or talk about it or whatever. But this first one here, we're gonna go like from 81-ish up through 83 with a few things. Actually, I need to move one of these. It's in the wrong place. Okay, drink. So the first one is kind of the basic, what you would have seen at the time period, buy our product, which the Have You Played Atari Today came from.
And it was just generic Atari. It wasn't like targeting...
They really wanted... This is one of them, remember, that like Missile Command.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's two of these that they're like, buy Missile Command, because it's got pretty pixels that go flash.
Did it come with the game, or was it just a console and you had to buy cartridges separately?
I don't remember because I wasn't born.
I was born, but I would have been a fetus.
I mean, I was born in 83. We had an Atari when I was born, so I don't know. I played Atari before I played Nintendo, but I don't know if it came with anything.
We had an Atari when I was in kindergarten.
I literally did no research on this beforehand, Adam.
I'm sorry.
You're making me do your story. Why? I'll look it up, I guess.
I probably told this story before, but I'll just tell it. So when we lived in a different location than we do now, like we were kind of away from family and everything, and we had an Atari to play, and I was told one of the neighborhood kids, and she was a little older than I was, like a couple grades older, and she would come over and play, and all summer long she would come over and play the Atari, and then one day I asked her to come over and hang out and play, and she's like, I don't need to come over anymore. We got our own Atari now. Thanks. And I'm like, that's when I realized for the first time in my life that some people aren't friends with you because of you. They're friends with you because of what you can get them.
What you can do for them.
Yeah. And that was crushing for a kindergartner.
So it did come with a game back when it was the Atari VCS. It came with Combat.
Oh, I love Combat. That was a good game.
And then it eventually came with Pac-Man. And we have two Pac-Man commercials we're going to look at today. So here we go. Here's kind of I have two like this of the Have You Played Atari Today. So here's the first one. They say it's rare. I don't know why they say. I guess because it's hard to find now. These were not rare commercials in 1981. There were 3 channels. You were gonna see this commercial. So here we go.
Those old reruns keep your family apart. Does your dog fall asleep at the very start? Then turn off the TV. And here's what you will see when you play a game from Atari. Have you played Atari today?
With an Atari game, a flick of the switch turns your TV set into a playground and your family room into a family room.
Have you played Atari today?
So, have you played Atari today? No. I have not.
But, I have a functional one.
Yeah, I have one. One of the things that I was just like, I love that this like blows their minds. It's like, here we go. We're turning it on. Missile Command! Look at those lines! All this. She's just like,
flashing pixels!
He's like, look, honey, this is what you could be doing to my dick.
Maybe that's what they think they're watching.
What?
Adult video games.
Oh, well.
That flashing, look. It's titillating.
And the kid's just like, this is the best thing. This is better than sex.
He's like,
and then he's like, the world ended, because that's what happens in Missile Command when you lose.
Cold War.
Yay, the Russians.
An Atari game, a flick of the switch.
And I love how it's like, look, if you press this switch, the game's on. Isn't that neat? That one person over there, what in the world was going? Hold on.
Considering how fast that booted up for back then, that actually is pretty.
It's like, wow. Well, because computers were just, and this was considered a computer system of the
home computer.
What is going on here? It's just like, did they have a heart attack?
Well, the flashing lights gave her epileptic seizures.
It could have.
And your family room
a guy.
into a family room.
Yeah, he literally just died. So the man of the house literally just died. So no more Atari games. No. They were too expensive back then.
Back then, most people only had one working parent.
Yeah, and I always love, the dun 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 for the Have You Played Atari Today? And this is kind of like, what I think of. I love the rainbow going with. It was
That's
just,
so 80s.
Yeah, early 80s, mind you,
Yeah.
because it was 81, so it's still technically the 70s. So
Yeah, like when they built the stuff. Yeah.
well, Atari came out 78, so it had already been around for a while. Because they were wanting to get the 5200 out, people were, but why I can't think of it. They were just like, no, this one's selling. Why would we upgrade? And it's like, well, because other people are coming out with better systems
Very soon.
and you need to get it out there. But by that point, it was too late.
The rare part is probably because people back then didn't have a way of recording
Yeah.
videos because that's before
You could
Betamax or VHS was at the house.
you could get one for like $3,000.
Yeah.
So this one, once again, they love Missile Command.
Probably because that was the game that they were trying to push to buy at the time.
It was a huge game in the arcade. It was in Terminator 2, when they play. It was a pretty big game. But this one's just called the 1981 2600 commercial. So here it goes.
Wow.
My mission in life is to save all of mankind.
Lately, my daughter has developed a similar problem with Atari warlords. Now, with video pinball, my husband is acting funny lately. With Atari games so ingenious, so involving, so intense, I ask you, Atari Anonymous, is this problem contagious?
So I like this one's just like burp, 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 burp. But there's a lot of things in this that make me smile. First off, it's like, this game actually is a pretty fun game, but the kid, it's like, I'm one of these kids this isn't made for jocks. This is just the poor kid at home, and he's like, take me to your leader.
Yeah, I know, he's talking like a computer.
He's
almost like Bender.
He's like the sci-fi kid, that gets comic books that now everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. But back then, they're like,
he's probably like one of those Stranger Things kids.
Yeah, or now that's like the cool thing, but back then it was not. And the dog's like, "What? Why won't you let me play?"
He looks like the dog from that Shaggy dog.
Yeah, the Shaggy dog.
Yeah,
and I don't even know what this one is.
that's one of those.
The poor daughter having fun. Now,
Well, kudos for them for having all age groups and different genders and everything.
this scares me. He's like, look how he's holding the controller. It's like
and maniacal laughter.
Yeah, I know. Wait, where am I?
What am I?
And even
you
the
should
dog
pause
gets
there.
to
We
play.
need to see what video games they were trying to sell in that.
I saw Air to Sea Battle. It's gonna be hard to see. I think Combat's in there.
Yeah, Combat's down there.
Combat. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna
It's
happen.
not clear enough to really read. Tic Tac Toe.
Circus Atari, 3D Tic Tac Toe.
Is that Casino? Right below Circus.
Atari. No, that's Combat.
Oh, they're both Combat, like the black ones.
Oh! I didn't even see that one. That shows how. Yeah, that's Casino. Missile Command. I can't tell. The rest of them are just too blurry.
Yeah, I think that one was Space Invaders.
Very possible. Which, hold on.
See how it has a spaceship on it?
I don't know. It doesn't look like invade. I don't see an R. I don't know. Very well could be. And I can't tell the rest. This is if that was Beat 'em and Eat 'em.
Did they have those productivity cartridges where you could type and stuff on the Atari, like the Coleco?
I don't. You're asking questions.
No, I'm just speaking.
I
in
have
the sense of thinking out loud.
And the next one here is the first Pac-Man commercial, as far as we were able to discern, and it's concerning. So when you watch it, you'll see why it's concerning.
This is bad.
First the Pac-Man eats through a maze of dots, then the Pac-Man heads for the corner spot, then he eats his fill of a power pill, and then all those ghosts turn blue, boo, and Pac-Man eats them all too.
Have you played Pac-Man? It's the new video computer game everyone's talking about. And naturally, it's from Atari.
Have you played Atari today?
And naturally, it's from Atari. Now, what's the big problem with that? It was all drawn
And it wasn't even animated. It was like a series of pictures.
We're not going to show you what our big deal game that was like the game breaker thing. Like the first thing, it's like,
Mario.
and it's like, what is going on? Well, getting Pac-Man was such a big deal because it was the first huge video game fanatical thing. I mean, we haven't had Pac-Man fever going on.
I can't remember if it was this one when we watched it or if it's the next
He's like
one.
jerking that
But
thing.
when they talk about, I think it's this one because they were singing basically how you played the game.
Yeah, right.
He slips up and he does not say Pac-Man. He says the Puck-Man.
Oh, does he? I couldn't tell.
Like there was one place where he says the Puck-Man.
Fuckman?
You know how like that was his original name was Puck-Man.
In Japan, yeah, and they didn't over here because people would call it Fuckman.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't call it. They were afraid they would change the machines to do it. But yeah, it's like the big issue with this commercial is you're not seeing anything of what the game is, and we all know that the Pac-Man for Atari 2600 is atrocious, and one of the reasons that, you know, the whole Atari situation happened where it just imploded. It wasn't just E.T. that ruined everything, but
well, it's where they were pushing a arcade level games, but they didn't have the hardware for it, and so people had the expectation of I'm going to be able to play arcade games at home, and then they weren't.
And one of the things they started doing, I'm putting Pac-Man in between one just so we didn't watch two Pac-Mans in a row. But another thing that was going on was when they would start showing 5200 graphics and not the 2600 graphics, but people wouldn't realize that, and they would go buy it, and they'd be like, why does this look so bad? And if you've played some of these games, you'll know how bad they were. But this is a pretty long commercial for Pole Position, which was a huge, huge game at the time, and they do not use the 2600 graphics for it. I have it on the 5200 sitting over there, but I don't have it.
This is a long commercial even by today's standards.
Right, yeah. And it's like, well wait.
Hey! Yeah? You look like a real jerk. Well, I am a corporate executive.
He stops exciting things from happening.
So what you doing? Well, Muffy, Buffy, Biff Jr. and I are going on our Sunday drive. Oh, no, you ain't. You're gonna play pole position! Atari. It'll bust your crank and leave skid marks on your soul.
So, people died in that. Exploded even. It starts out that, you know, I know the original Vacation was out by this point, but it reminds me of the Griswolds right off the bat. You know, we just need the wood grain.
Fun of the nuclear family of the 80s.
Well, and then, you know, he's like, you know, he's an executive. He stops anything fun. You know, and they're on their Sunday drive, and then it's like, pole position! And then the hand of God literally comes out of nowhere. Rod Todd, this is God. And then, whoop! And it's just like, here we go. What's happening? And then he literally dumps them out. It's like, here we go. Woo! You should all be dead. And your car explodes.
And I love how they equate like the game with actually driving these Formula cars.
And you know, the 5200 graphics look pretty good, but it's making sure it tells you very, very poorly. And it only does it the one time. So, you know, if you blink, you don't see that it's the 5200 that's being shown.
Most of the gameplay isn't...
See, dead person, literally right there.
Part of the video. Most of the video is this weird...
them in the cars. Yeah. But at least it shows the game. you know, and the 5200 graphics aren't that bad considering that the game itself was really mind-blowing for the time. Surprised that, you know, the big thing that doesn't look that impressive is the explosions, because, you know, like
a oil spill.
Yeah, it's just like that, and whereas in the game, like, tires would fly at you and everything. But it's, like, available for all Atari game and computer systems, so, like, the Atari 800 computer, but, you know...
That's a weird controller, though.
Yeah, well, it's the 5200, and it's a hot mess. But, now we get to, an interesting one. This is Atari's Pac-Man with Mr. Hooper,
well,
which
we believe is the second commercial.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is the second one, since it actually has... Unless this is the first one, and when he died, they quit showing it and went to the animated one.
Either they could have done that.
So we're not real sure which one's first. But he died in December of 1982, and this game was released in March of 1982. So regardless, one of the last things he did besides Sesame Street was this game.
And it's interesting they're using Sesame Street, like...
Well, that girl would be young enough to have been on Sesame Street.
Like characters that people would have associated with educational stuff. Here, play this video game.
Yeah, because, you know, Mr. Hooper, like, I was like, at first I was like, why is that familiar? And he was like, Sesame Street. And we looked, I was like, oh God! And, you know, and he did die in 1982, so this is one of the last things that Will Lee, a.k.a. Mr. Hooper, ever did. So here we go.
Grandpa, you want to play Pac-Man?
Pac-Man, horsey.
I'll show you, Grandpa.
Pac-Man is a video game cartridge you have to buy separately to play on the Atari video computer system. Your parents hook it up to the TV.
Those are supposed to be the ghosts after Pac-Man. Watch out, Grandpa. Stick with me. You'll get the hang of it.
This is the Atari video computer system. Pac-Man and other video game cartridges are each sold separately.
Oh, that's a very good little thing, you know.
I love how she's like, these are supposed to be the ghost actors.
Yeah, even it's like some of them you might not even be able to see because they don't show up because the game couldn't handle it because it was literally the prototype that they released.
Yeah,
which still blows my. I was trying to find the picture. My favorite thing, that right there, Mr. Hooper, like, what is this horrible thing on this cartridge and what's it do? That's what killed him.
He's like, my life is over.
Yeah, I mean, literally, he was like, there's nothing, why would I live anymore? I've seen the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't the Cold War.
No, it was, the Cold War, World War II, famine. He was born in 1908. So World War I, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Great Depression, none of those things killed him. Pac-Man on the 2600 killed him. So... we kid, but, you know, poor Mr. Hooper, this is one of the last things he ever did. God bless him. Now let's go to something else horrible.
For a different reason.
We're going to the game that everybody thinks killed the video game stuff here, which is part of the reason, it is not the only. And it is not the worst game ever made by far. There are many worse.
It was more of a financial issue than it was, like, the gameplay issue that probably made, like on the business side of thing, where, like, basically it didn't sell as much as they
Well, it sold a ton. It sold 2.6 million, but of then, like, 1.8 million sent them back.
Yeah.
And they made a bunch extra, and that caused a problem, but at first it sold very well. And it sold more consoles, which the consoles they weren't returning. They were returning E.T. and getting different games. The thing with E.T. is, he had to make it so fast.
It literally, like, it was like 5 to 2 weeks, like 5 days to 2 weeks. Like, it was in
I think it was more than that, but I'm going to check real quick.
Like, he didn't have a lot of time, and it wasn't...
He didn't, but I think he had more than that.
It wasn't really gameplayed either. Like, you know, like, game tested. And,
well, they didn't really...
No, they didn't do quality control like that. They should have. And this is one of the reasons why that kind of stuff would eventually become standard in game making.
Because Howard Scott Warshaw that made Yar's Revenge, which is
one of the best games at the time.
And then he made the Indiana Jones game, which is really confusing and hard and difficult. But
he tried to make games that weren't the same cookie cutter type game.
He did. It's just the game. It's like the Atari 2600 is not the place for a adventure type point and click game like he basically made that out of. But Steven Spielberg saw it and liked it, and they wanted him to do E.T. He had 5.5 weeks to make it. I thought he had more than that. Yeah. They got the rights to make it in July 1982, and they had to have it ready for the Christmas season. And
it took a while to make those cartridges because you have to print them and copy the files over.
And I'll just tell you right now, there are plenty of worse games. Once I figured E.T. out, it's not that bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's not. I've played a lot worse.
The biggest problem is they just don't tell you in the game how to play the game.
Well, I don't know if that's true because I've never seen the instruction book. I have 2 ETs, but I just have the cartridges.
Well, I mean, like in the game itself, they don't. Like that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of kids wouldn't read instruction manuals.
What did Zelda do though?
Zelda, like you don't necessarily need the instruction manual.
But it just throws you right in the middle of a screen with no weapon, no nothing. Have fun.
Yeah.
Same thing that did. I mean, I think how many kids didn't go into that cave and find that sword and wondering what in the world they're supposed to do and where's the dungeons because there was nothing to tell you. But if you looked in the instruction book, it told you. I don't really... While this plays and horrifies us all, find out.
Only from Atari. Made especially for systems from Atari. The video game that lets you help E.T. get home. Just in time for Christmas. Happy holidays from Atari.
First off, I love that commercial because it's everything that makes Christmas commercials great.
And it's very cinematic, almost like Steven Spielberg himself filmed the commercial.
So I'm looking at the instruction book right now. It says, your mission is to help E.T. find the 3 pieces of his interplanetary telephone, call his ship, and guide him to the landing pad in time to be rescued. Do this before E.T.'s energy runs out, and you'll win the round and score points. E.T. traverses 6 sites on planet Earth. 4 of these are full of pitfalls, and they are dotted with deep wells into which E.T. can fall. And then it has a 5th site that shows Elliot's house and the Institute of Science and the FBI building. Here, E.T. is taken by the scientists to be studied. The 6th site is a forest setting where E.T. first lands and where the ship will land to pick him up. Right there, it tells you exactly what stuff does. And on the figure where it talks about the holes, it shows them. It shows what a candy piece is. And it shows you how to find out if there's a phone piece in the holes right on the instruction book.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Huh. Reading's fun, children. Let's see, there's another page here. Let me zoom in here. Oh yeah, it tells you about which one the FBI building is, which one's Elliot's house, the Science Institute. It tells you what the phone parts are. Shows, let's see here. A round ends when E.T. boards the spaceship. At the end of the round, all your bonus points are displayed. If you want to play another round, simply press the controller button. E.T.'s telephone pieces and the candy will be redistributed for him to find again. You can play as many rounds as you like, since your bonus points will accumulate. The game ends when E.T. runs out of energy or when you decide to quit playing. Thank you. On each site, E.T. moves through various power zones. While in a power zone, E.T. can execute only one of his extraordinary powers. For example, if E.T. is ready to call a spaceship, he must be in a call ship zone. As E.T. stands in a power zone, the symbol for that zone appears at the top of the screen, which is shown in the figure 4 on the instruction book. At the beginning of each new round, the power zones are randomly changed for each site. Then it tells you on the next page what each of those do. Which, for years, I was like, what?
Yeah.
So it has like the find piece, the phone piece zone, and these are all explained. Send humans back, E.T. can send the FBI agent Elliot and the scientists back to their respective buildings. You have the candy zone. If E.T. eats one of his candy pieces, he'll convert it into energy so he doesn't die.
That's helpful.
Call Elliot zone. When he has 9 pieces of candy, Elliot will take the candy and chase away humans and leave to find a missing phone piece. Elliot will then bring the phone piece to E.T. If he has less than 9 pieces, Elliot will take the candy and go back home, aka, and you get points. So if you have all of them, you can get a phone part. You can call the ship, move to a new site where it'll teleport you, and then you have the find phone piece, which will blink in which hole you can go get it. So the instruction book literally tells you what you're supposed to do. Boy, I wish I'd had that as a kid. That would have made me probably like the game a little bit more.
Unfortunately, the internet didn't exist.
No.
So no copies of that were available unless you actually...
And I know a lot of people, because it's just like boxes for those old games. You just threw them away and kept the cartridge because that's all you needed.
Quite frankly, as a 5-year-old kid, those booklets wouldn't have lasted around me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they would have gotten... stepped on, trashed, and spilt, and everything. You know.
I had all mine because Mom and Dad kept them in a place, and I was not allowed to tear them up. Because they're like, if I paid $50 for this... No, I didn't have the boxes, but they kept it to where you had to have the instruction book in the slip for Nintendo games, so I had them in that. But the next one here, we're going to look at 2 more after this. We have 3 left. This is the Star Wars arcade game, which once again, they use the 5200 graphics to show you the game. So most people didn't have that. So they were going to be greatly disappointed when they saw what it looked like. So this is a pretty common commercial that a lot of people know, but I thought I'd add it in.
It's funny.
Star Wars. It's great in the arcade. TIE fighters! Fireballs! Coming right at me! Watch the laser towers. Aim for the tops. Pick in the cutouts. Use the force. Coming too fast. Which way? Which way? My shields are gone! Alright! I'm going in!
Oh, some game, huh?
Some game!
In a galaxy of video games, there is only one. Star Wars, the arcade.
From Parker Brothers.
What's that? Oh, that's just the copyright text.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that, like, fine print?
Very stuff for LucasArts. And first off,
why is this not a meme?
Look at him. Give me the
he doesn't even look real.
No, he doesn't. It's like Jim Carrey. And then, first off, I will say, the game looks pretty good for the Atari 5200.
It's like navigating a 3-dimensional space.
Like, it looks pretty good. Like, I would play that, but that's not what the other one looked like. And, I love... I mean, it's like, what? Look at that hair. Some game! And I love how, you know, it's like, they have the Coleco on there. It's like, shh, and the Commodore 64, which, you know, was where most people played games back in the day.
Yeah.
Because they had the Commodore, which was a huge selling system. So I'm not a lot to say about that because it's just been shown a lot, but it's just his face.
That's funny.
And another one that a lot of people know because it's the first time like Luigi is really mentioned.
Something's coming up the plumbing for Luigi's in a bind. Giant turtles out to get him, creepy crabs are right behind. Spider flies, cheaper shites, they're all coming out the pipes.
Mario, where are you? It's Atari Mario Brothers with Mario from Donkey Kong, his brother Luigi, and lots of crazy creatures. And it's twice the fun when 2 play at once, because you need all the help you can get. Mario, where are you? Mario Brothers, new from Atari.
It wasn't until a couple, like, maybe, like, sometime in the past year or so, that I didn't realize that little game that they're showing here for this was actually here.
Yeah.
I always thought it was just, like, a mini game in Mario 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right. I had it on NES.
I didn't know Mario was on Atari.
Mario they look weird, which, of course, was what, you know, they...
Well, they look like their Donkey Kong version.
Well, you should see what he looks like in the 2600 version. It's really bad, and it shouldn't have been that bad. But, you know, the big thing about this is the beginning, you know, where they have the live-action Luigi. The fat Luigi, mind you.
He looks like the live-action Mario from the cartoon series. You know what I mean? Like the inspiration for that.
Mario Brothers with Mario from
And of course, they call him, it's the Mario Brothers, you know, because back then we didn't call him Mario, it was Mario. And I've heard a lot of people used to watch Nickelodeon's Total Panic, And when Mario 3 came out, she was like, Super Mario Brothers 3. And I'm like, Mario? What is this Mario you talk of? So, you know, even the 5200 one, it doesn't look like it ran at a very good frame rate. I've never played it on either of these, but I've mostly played it on the NES or in the arcade. We played it in the arcade. It was... Canal City had a really great arcade in its mall. That's where our movie theater was. We used to always go to because it was closer to the Canal Mall than the town center where we lived. And it had Mario Bros. And it was always cool because you could watch, like, it would bounce on the screen, the Mario, and I'd be like, I want to play this, and I'd last like 3 seconds because a 2-year-old, 3-year-old couldn't understand that you jump under the thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought you jumped on them or ran into them. And I was like, why am I dying? Then when Super Mario came out, it was even more confusing because you could jump on them and kill them.
Which is the reverse of what you were just taught.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay. So that's a fun old commercial. Not a lot to say about it. This one's the interesting one because you couldn't really do this one anymore because it's kind of... It's like an old beer commercial, I guess I'll say. It's, you know, when they used to make fun of on The Simpsons where it'd be like all these hot women and attractive, you know... older teenage to college level boys all fratting together and doing all this stuff. It's like, they wouldn't do this anymore, but it's like, look, if you play Atari 5200, you're going to be this hot, sexy whatever, and everyone will like you. So you have to do
friends,
this. Yeah.
Like I used to have.
That hair.
Now where you been? You'll make the days roll on by, blasting bugs out of the sky. Well, you know deep down that it's gonna be a hummer, 'cause nobody's hotter than Atari this summer. Nobody's hotter than Atari this summer.
This summer, the really hot video games come from Atari. We've got Centipede, Ms. Pac-Man, Vanguard, and Galaxian. If you thought it was going to be just another summer, Atari is going to turn your head around.
The hot names, the hot games, the hot feels. Yeah, it's gonna be a hummer, 'cause nobody's hotter than Atari this summer. Nobody's hotter than Atari this summer.
Of course, the video game crash would happen that summer, and nobody would care anymore.
Could you imagine if Nintendo Switch did a commercial like that right now?
Like, first off, look at that guy's hair in the middle. Like, I'm just like, oh, this is the 80s, all right.
It is.
But, like, the girls, they do the zoom in and out. It's like when they're like, zoom, zoom, look, it's pretty women. They got their Atari.
This always reminds me of, like...
shaking their ass.
Like the whole Bayside thing for Saved by the Bell, except more sexual.
And first off, it's like, let's lug out our gigantic 5200. There it is. You know.
We have a desktop computer.
And then it's like, how do we power this? Well, apparently, you know, they have a generator in the sand with
clean energy, ladies.
With the gigantic Atari battery for this thing they don't show. And hold on, where's the girl playing the...
It makes it feel like the game is portable, which it is not.
No, it's exactly right. Like, I'm playing with a Atari controller.
Really hot video games.
It's just like, and there's the one where I got.
Well, they don't even show you what kind of screen you would need.
This right here.
Just another summer, Atari is turn your head around.
Sure. They are really sexualizing those joysticks.
This reminds me of one of those, like, college farcical things, like Revenge of the Nerd type commercial, like, you know, movies.
Like, look at these girls, like, and the boy, it's just, first off, if that really happened, we were discussing that ahead of time, that would have been amazing if you had, like, the 3D in the air, like...
Yeah, you could actually play holograph.
I like how the one guy, like, smacks him, like, are you dreaming of these hot women with their Atari? We have to chase them.
They're like...
Oh, that's the one I was looking for.
Please play with my joystick.
Oh, no, this is like, please stick it in my ass.
Yeah.
She's ready for something if that guy's ticking her butt. Look at that. Oh, 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 oh. That's literally what that is.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just gonna leave it since this is our last one. Right here. Bad Atari. It's a no wonder that 2 months after this it would go.
What's sad is they could have really been a great company.
Well, if the 5200 came out two years earlier, like it could have, it would have really been great. They would have had nothing stopping them. And of course, then Nintendo wanted to release through Atari, and they were like, no. Which is crazy because what they could have done is licensed it and then never released it.
Yeah.
And they could have kept it from just, and they didn't do that either. I mean, they literally could have kept Nintendo from ever being anything here. And they didn't. So, interesting to see that. But this has gone on quite a while. This is 35 minutes. So...
It's been fun just to talk, rambling about stuff.
So I hope that you enjoyed looking at Atari commercials. I did take these offline. No one, unless they recorded themselves, which I don't believe, have any real rights to these. So I don't care to do this. I'm not getting, money for this anyway, so I could care less. But we did get them straight offline. I'm sure you noticed since I'm playing it right off YouTube. But this is just the way I thought to do it. It's just like when people play reaction videos and stuff. So I don't see an issue doing it. So we hope you enjoyed. If you did, we'll probably look at doing more of these in the future. Not necessarily moving on to my early NES, looking at stuff. Maybe Toys R Us commercials, and the hills are where the toys are and all that.
Hills is where the toys are.
So, this is once again still getting longer. So, bye everybody.
Bye.
Look at the O face.